I don't see share application. Okay.
Yeah, so when I click on the share icon, what I see is share screen. It's like, do you really want to share? It's like you were sharing earlier. Okay, we're incoming share screen.
What browser are you using?
I'm on Safari.
That's your problem. For whatever reason, at least as of the last IETF, you couldn't share anything other than your full screen with Safari.
Okay, let me, gosh, okay.
And if you're using, so I think that both Chrome and Firefox are known to work well. You do end up having to enable the allow screen recording or something like that in the security part of the settings, which then requires you to restart the browser also.
Okay, do you guys see what I'm sharing now?
Yep.
Yeah.
If you maximize that, it should be fine.
Okay.
Icon at the bottom right of the screen. It looks like a little plugin thing. To your left. Nope, slide to your left. Keep going. One of those two. There you go. So that's normal, slide sorter. I think the next one over is the full size. So 2 icons to the right.
No.
No, not the slider. There are four buttons there. What?
Yeah, the slideshow one. Left to the slider. Oops.
You've stopped the screen share. Actually, I think we lost him completely.
Tired of the backseat driving.
Well, I will look for the chair slides just in case I have to do the projection. So Rashad, if you like, I can go ahead and run the screen if you would like me to do that. And by the way, you're still on mute.
Okay, Jeff, you can share because it looks like I'm having, I mean, I don't want to change to Chrome now. Okay, in the middle. So I'll take notes.
Okay, that'll work.
Should we get going? Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, just before we get completely started, is there anybody that would like to check test their microphone to make sure that things are working fine? Greg, I know we've heard you recently. We heard from Mahesh. Okay, since nobody's actually asking, and it looks like we can see full screen. Rashad, take it away.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, everyone. This is BFD at IETF 110. I'm Rashad, co-chair, and with Jeff. Next slide, please. This is the usual note well, which you should have seen many times by now. It's the usual stuff. You're basically agreeing to everything, the IETF policies. The agenda, so that's the chair's update from Jeff and myself. Then we'll go to BFD unsolicited, that will be me. BFD secure numbers, I believe, is from Mahesh and not Sonal right now. Mahesh will continue BFD stability, and then we'll have BFD unaffiliated echo. Next slide, please. So as you guys have seen, we've had an AD change. We'd like to thank Martin for his support during the past few years. And welcome to John, who's our new AD. John, would you like to say a few words, how your love of BFD started from childhood or something along those lines?
Started from childhood. I believe I was there at the very first meeting between, I think the people in the room were Dave Katz, Dave Ward, and me. But it's you guys' baby now, appropriately so, and I'm looking forward to working with you.
Thank you. Okay, here's an update on the documents. We have a new RFC 8971, which is BFD for VXLAN. Would like to thank everybody who contributed, reviewed, the authors, and a special thanks to Greg for pushing it over the finish line, which is always a tough job. BFD for large packets. There's been discussions. There's been that was in working group last call. There's been a more recent draft regarding how to, I don't know if you guys remember, but BFD, large packets allows you to have large packets to detect MTU issues, but it doesn't address procedures to alter the BFD padding size, and that draft BFD padding alteration describes procedures to do so. The authors have decided to merge documents together. That's a good idea. And I guess we're basically waiting for a new revision of the document.
And very quickly, that is my near-term queue after IETF is finished.
Yeah, thank you. BFD Yang document, it's been a while. We've had to send diffs to the RFC editor due to a change in one of the modules it depends on, the T's Yang TE. That document has been in misref for close to 3 years now. I haven't checked what are the state of the other documents, I mean the ones it depends on, so I don't have a good idea what a potential ETA would be.
So a quick point on this one. It was mentioned in one of the other meetings this week. I have to pull my notes to exactly which one. I think it was in the chat. That one of the options we could consider doing to maybe move things forward is to take the document back from the RFC editor and split out the MPLS component and ship it without the MPLS component in the main document and do a second document with the MPLS. I'm not saying this is a good or bad idea. It is just potentially an option for the working group if we care to get ourselves unstuck from MPLS, or alternatively, we ask our ADs to lean on the MPLS group to finish their work.
Hello, Jeff. That was me who suggested that. This is AC, and LSI suggested that in LSR, because I had done some homework and I saw that not only are you waiting on Yang TE, you're waiting on Yang TE RSVP, which TE references. So you got to get both of those done just to get that one reference to the tunnels, or those references to the tunnels in the MPLS document.
Thank you, AC. I'd forgotten it was you.
Yeah.
So, and I think part of the relevant point here, since it was mentioned in LSR, is that we're also holding up other people that are importing the module that we asked them to use as the grouping to make life consistent for the rest of the BFD users. So unfortunately, while we're trying to do the right thing for everybody, MPLS is sort of messing that up.
Yeah, so we'll sync up after I did not attend the where that was said. I think it's, I mean, off the bat, it's a suggestion to be considered. I think next in the queue is Mahesh.
Right. So, Rashad and Jeff, actually, I did have an opportunity when I was writing the Yang module for one of our drafts to actually test out. And yes, Rashad, there's a minor change in the T's document, which I was able to address by changing the BFT module to get it to compile. But I do second the fact that we might want to split off MPLS just to get the rest of the BFT Yang module out of the door.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'll just add, I would hold, it's holding up OSPF, ISIS, and PIM at least.
Okay. Okay, we'll sync up on that. And Mahesh, the fix you had to do, do you remember if it's the same fix I had sent to the RFC editor? Or should we sync up on that?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what you changed. I think it's one of the plurals and one of
yes, there was one thing for LSPs versus LSP from what I remember.
Right.
Okay. BFD unsolicited, it's expired recently. We need a new revision. There's going to be a quick update immediately after. The BFD authentication docs, there's been updates recently based on the comments from the Shepherd. We should be done working group last call soon. There's going to be an update on 2 of the documents after. I think it's fairly minor stuff left. Well, the document has come a long way. I think we're close to being there. Yes, Greg?
I'm premature, so I'm
Okay.
for the document of interest comment.
Okay. And that was put as a document of interest. I want to take a look at that. I did not have time. I don't think there was any feedback. And I believe that's an RFC now?
No, it's an RFC editor queue. So
Okay.
yes, it's got needed votes from ISG, and it's in RFC editor queue. But if I may, I wanted to mention other documents in MPLS working group.
Before we move on to those, Greg, for the one that's displayed here, the MVP and fast failover, the thing that's sort of an interesting sticking point on this one is that BESS is defining it, but it's sort of a core PHP path attribute that be used to provide BFD discriminators as glue. So that's one of the hold-up points. It didn't get the wider review even in IDR, and I think it hasn't hit my queue as a new IDR chair yet, but John may have a better sense of what it was last status-wise. But the need for this being a more generic mechanism is, I think, one of the sticking points. We have to figure out what that goes on with there. Matthew, did you want to respond to that point, or did you want to allow?
So speaking as best chair, best co-chair, it's currently in the RFC editor's queue. I believe it went through in best mostly because it's fairly specific to, or is considered fairly specific to VPNs. But that may be, some people may have different opinions on that, but I'm not sure. Stefan, my co-chair, was actually shepherding it, so I don't know if he's tracked he's not in this call. Tracked any of those issues that you mentioned more closely.
Yeah, and I don't know that there's serious issues. I did leave some specific comments, as part of my own review of the thing. and that was before I took on the chair job. So I think a conversation will probably be needed to close off on those points. Minimally, the points I raised need to be addressed, and past that point, more eyes.
As editor of this document, I hope that I addressed your comments. So yes, I appreciate if you can check the current version.
I will do so.
Thank you.
So my interruption being done, Greg, you said you had further documents to bring to attention?
Yes. So there is one MPLS working group document. It's BFD directed for traffic engineering environment or path engineered environments. What it does, it extends MPLS LSP ping that can direct their reverse path for their BFD session or path for the reverse direction of BFD session to this specific LSP path. This document been stuck for a while, and I will appreciate their BFD community to look at it and share comments on BFD and MPLS working group documents mailing lists. In addition, there is a document, it's individual draft, not working group document. It's on MPLS encapsulation for point to multi-point BFD sessions and how to handle it for active tails and just regular. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
And Greg, so that last one you said, the MPLS encapsulations point to multi-point, in what working group is it?
MPLS working group.
MPLS working group, okay. And you mentioned the previous one, the BFDOK directed is stuck. In what, it's stuck in what state now and for what reason?
Okay, it had routing directorate review. There were some comments, the technical comments. I believe that these technical comments have been addressed. But the reviewer believes otherwise, and we're kind of stuck in our own opinions. MPLS working group seems ambivalent to that. So I hope that I know I recall that Jeff looked at this draft and shared his expert opinion on working group chair, but I don't think that it really was accepted because it was not on the mailing list. It was a small group discussing. So if somebody or some experts from the group can share their opinion on MPLS mailing list, whether it's useful, whether it's a reasonable solution, I will greatly appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. Are we done? Or...
Okay, BFD and solicited should be visible.
It's coming up. Yep, thank you. Okay, Rashad again. I'm going to be just giving a quick update on this document on behalf of all the authors. Next slide, please. So that's a recap of the current state of the document. It was last presented at IETF 104, so exactly 2 years ago. We had added a Yang model for this feature. When the document was adopted, we had a Yang doctor review, which required a small change in the main BFD Yang model that was sent to the RFC edit. That was sent to the RFC editor. And because of the Yang model, we changed the document from informational to standards. We'll talk about that on the next slide. And then working group last call was requested last August. Next slide, please. So the main comments we got during the last call was one of the few comments we got from Raj was to make sure that the procedures described worked on unnumbered interfaces. The authors need to address this. The comments were, I think, specific to the subnet check and the source address for lookup. So that's something which we did not give reply to, and we have to look into and update the document accordingly. The other discussion which happened, I believe, from that got started by Les, I believe, was the two were related, was first whether the Yang should be in the same document as the feature. The consensus seems to be to keep the Yang in the document. Then the next related question was whether it should be informational. There was no consensus here, and there seems to be, I had sent an email to the ops ADs. Rob Wilton replied. I think I got reply from somebody else, I forget who. There seems to be no IETF rules as to whether having a Yang requires the doc to be standards track. Personally, I don't really mind either way, whether it's informational or standards tracked. I know there was a push to keep it informational because there's no protocol changes there, but there is a Yang OK model. So, John, we may need your, well, not me, we will need your help just to close on this. And also got comments from Greg. There were some clarifications. So one of the reasons, for informational purposes, one of the reasons this document stalled was 3 of the 4 authors changed jobs in the past year or so. So we need to get back to it. Next slide, please. Yeah, we need to address the comments from the BFD working group and move ahead with it. But the main thing, from a non-technical viewpoint, is we need to address the standards track versus informational.
Yep. And thankfully, this document is literally at the last gates. It's ready to be published once those are dealt with. John, you had a comment?
For me to be educated about the standards track versus informational, I have a question, which is, what's the downside of moving it forward as standards track from your perspective? Because that would appear to address the ambiguity by making it moot. If you'd rather take it to a side conversation, that's perfectly fine.
I think the general consensus from the working group is they're ambivalent about what the actual status of this is. Originally, without the Yang module, there is absolutely no protocol change. This is more about here's how you use existing mechanisms, mostly via configuration and that sort of thing. So that was the real reason to have it informational. And the ambiguity is strictly what does having a Yang module inside of your document do to things? The question effectively devolves down to we're polluting the IETF namespace for modules by putting our stuff in there. and IETF effectively has to manage that. So while we're not changing BFD, we're changing the Yang tree that IETF as a whole manages. So I think that's really what the question devolves to. It doesn't hurt us to have it as standards track, and I think we just need a declaration.
Right. Yeah, I get the reason why the BFD may pull standards track in with it. I'm just trying to understand why the working group wouldn't just say, okay, fine, standards track. But as I said, we can take it offline.
Further questions before we move to next slides? Okay, secure sequence numbers will be up next as soon as I find it.
All right, so I will be presenting secure sequence numbers on behalf of Sonal, who could not attend this particular meeting. Next slide, please. So as Rishad mentioned in the chair status, we've been going through trying to address it says addressed. Now, I think there's still a couple of minor comments still left, which I think we will address in the next revision. So the latest version should be bumped up to 09 after IETF 110. Next slide. So one of the questions that was raised as a result of the Shepherd's comments has to do with the fact that we do talk about symmetric algorithm that is used to compute the ciphertext for this sequence number itself. The suggestion from Rishad was whether we should mandate or even propose, actually, a minimum algorithm. I don't remember, Rishad, which is the one you maybe said as the minimum that we might want to propose in the draft for the purpose of interoperability. That, of course, leaves the question of what happens if that minimum algorithm ever gets obsoleted or deprecated. At that point, would we have to come back and drop the draft? So typically, IETF has not been very good at being able to specify a minimum set of algorithms. So this is a question for the work group to answer. And then, if not, then should the draft leave it to the implementers to decide what algorithm they want to set up as a minimum, or whatever they propose in their implementation. So that's pretty much all I had, and I would pause and see if anybody in the work group has any comments or suggestions on how to resolve this question of algorithm.
Personal opinion, you mentioned that, and you're correct that this is usually not done, the suggesting algorithms for the reasons. So I think if this is something which is not done for the reasons you mentioned, we should probably go along the same lines.
Okay.
See John. John?
I was a little thrown off when Mahesh, you said that you might put an algorithm into the document for interoperability reasons. Isn't the sequence number a local matter?
When you say local matter, meaning in terms of how you secure the sequence number?
How you generate it?
Yeah, that is local. The question is if, as part of this draft proposal, if you're trying to secure it by using a symmetric algorithm, then both ends have to agree on that algorithm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
And Mahesh, remind me, didn't we have a conversation originally with Alan Deacock that had recommended a specific algorithm that is extremely low CPU use that's a good fit for this?
You know, I must be missing or forgetting something, so probably will need.
Okay, let's take that back. So the somewhat to John's point, the purpose here is to provide the ability to do BFD security when you're not actually doing signatures across the entire BFD packet. You're just trying to do something that effectively from the outside world looks like a random set of sequence numbers. And we're using a crypto mechanism to basically allow us to generate what the next sequence number looks like without actually doing something as strong as SHA-2. And we'd received some feedback during the initial discussion phases about this, that there exist some low-level hashes that are extremely cheap to run. The challenge is once we get to anything that's too complex, we actually get rid of the benefit of this feature, which was intended to let us not have to do quite as much crypto and BFD. Okay, so I'll take that back to the mailing list and see if we can contact Alan. John, did you want to respond to that as a follow-up?
Better be in line.
AC?
Yeah, I noticed that the document, when you do this, you still have to have a greater sequence number than the previous. So anytime you do anything other than just increasing it, you're going to have a lot more wraps with 32-bit value. That's not discussed in the document, though.
So are you saying after you have generated the ciphertext version of the sequence number? No, it's that you're taking a monotonically increasing sequence number to begin with, and then
Yes.
you're computing the ciphertext for it and inserting it.
Oh,
So-
okay. Okay. But both sides would have to use the same, of course. Then, okay, I understand.
Yes.
That.
This is an obscuring mechanism.
Yeah.
All right. So if there are no other comments, then I guess Jeff, we're going to take it to John and then our mailing list.
Yep, we'll take it back. And again, the challenge is we don't want to use any ciphers that actually make it more expensive than solving BFD signatures at speed anyway. So,
Yeah.
got to go back to there. If there's nothing further, the next scheduled presentation is BFD stability.
So this should also be a fairly short presentation. So, next slide. So just like secure sequence number, this one is also gone through Shepard's review. One of the questions that came back during that review process from Albert was that the draft mentioned being able to track the lost packet count, but there was nothing described in the draft as to how that could potentially be tracked. So the suggestion was maybe it needs a Yang model, which is next slide, which is exactly what we added. So it essentially extends the IETF Yang model to add IETF BFD stability. It augments it for each one of the potential uses of BFD. In this case, what you're seeing is an example for a single hop IP BFD, where it's adding a lost packet count. Fairly small Yang module, but it does require, I guess now, a Yang doctor's review, which I think Rishad has already initiated. And it also necessitated an update to the INA consideration section and the security consideration section. So those were the changes for this particular draft. Any questions?
I took a look, but I don't remember. Is there a feature defined for this counter, or is it? I'm not saying we have to. I'm just curious.
Well, good point. It's the only thing that is there in the Yang module. So either you implement the Yang module and you have the capability, or I guess you don't.
Okay. Okay.
Question, even so, wouldn't you want to see this in your netconf hello to know that the module is present?
Right. So
Well,
if
we
you're
didn't-
you want to implement it in that case. Sorry, Rashad, you were saying, maybe you can clarify.
Well, sorry, I didn't mean to. Okay, I was just saying. I mean, if you don't support, I think what you were implying, Mahesh, was if you don't support this, then you don't. There's one counter. So if you don't implement this, you don't. That module would not be in the Yang library and all that, right? And whereas if you do, it's the only counter. That's what you were implying.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, the Yang library considerations were the ones I wasn't thinking of. Thank you. Okay, I believe this takes us to our last presentation, which is BFD unaffiliated. Okay, watching.
Hello, could you hear me?
Yes.
Excuse me, Chair, could you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So next page. Yeah, this is the intention of this draft, because there are some people asking some questions, so we would like to clarify those questions here. And this is a new use that is not yet being documented in the current RFCs. And the second one is BBF TR 146 documented the similar use. But in that TR, the detailed procedural text is not clear. And the third point is this draft adopted by PFD working group last year, due to the fact that this draft updates RFC 5880 in many aspects. So the intended status is changed to the standard track. Next page. So the main change from last revision, the first point is to add a new session 2 to list all updates to RFC 5880. The second, add more details on procedures into section 3. The third one, improve the section 4 on the applicability of unifiliated BFD ICO functions. The last one added new section 8 to list contributors and we move one cursor to contribute because the number limitation for the cursors. Next page. Yeah, this page give the details updates to FC 5880. So the first point is the BFD ICO functions is adjunct to BFD asynchronous model or BFD demand model. But in this draft, unaffiliated BFD ICO removes this restriction. The second point, in previous RFC, before the BFD ICO function work, the non-zero required minimum ICO X must be signaled by the remote system. This draft, the unaffiliated BFD ICO removes this signaling procedure. And the third one, the BFD ICO packets must not be transmitted when BFD session status is not up. In this draft, the BFD ICO removes the limitation. And the next page. This page, this slide gives a detailed procedure in this draft. Firstly, the device A create the session and it will set such as a transmit interval and the detect mount. And the second point, the device A will send the packet reusing the BFD control packet format to one hop away device B with the IP address designated for itself. So the TTL may be set to the maximum number. The destination UDP port is set to 3785. And the next action, the device B will loop back the received BFD ICO packets by the normal forwarding way without any special processing. And the last step, the device A will receive the BFD ICO packet and lead to BFD state change. So this is the very simple procedure. Next page. So currently we have two.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think Greg has a question. I don't know if it's one of the previous slides,
yeah.
Greg.
So yeah, Greg, please go ahead.
It's not a question. It's something I wanted to note, and we discussed it before. So the updates that you listed for that this document updates 5880. My concern is that it affects the security consideration because the reason for these restrictions put in 5880 to use echo function was for the remote end to be able to either regulate the rate of echo packets transmitted to it, or even not to accept them at all. So, for example, by setting this value to 0, it indicates that the remote peer doesn't want to receive any echo packet. So removing this and allowing to start transmitting echo packets without reaching the up state during the normal pole sequence creates an opportunity for anybody to start sending at any rate packets to their system, BFD system, that cannot handle it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, understand. So maybe we need to add some note to describe the risk, right?
Yeah. And to the procedure, so you probably didn't include in the slide that in order to use returned packets, your discriminator and progress the status to up, these fields has to be initialized by the sender itself.
Oh, yes.
So basically, the sender has to set the status to up and send your discriminator to the locally assigned associated with this BFD session discriminator value. So thus, on the receipt of this packet, it would be able to proceed as you describe it.
Yeah, so thank you point out it. I think we did not list it in the slides, but the content you mentioned now we document in the draft, right? Okay.
AC, you had a question?
Dear Chair?
Just a quick one. AC Linda, I've somewhat given up at my own company trying to get people not to write Yang with a capital Y and the rest lowercase, but it's Yang is originally an acronym. So could you please not use that that version of it?
Okay.
Mark?
Comments regarding to Greg's comments. I think for this on affinity BFD echo process, this is it is totally transparent to the remote system. So it's just like a data packet. You don't know anything about whether it's a BFD packet or a data packet. So seems that for me, I think there's no security issue.
So I'm going to insert myself into the queue ahead of Greg, potentially make the point that Greg would. It would be normally a security consideration in the sense that one of the reasons we have signaling for echo support is so that the systems can do regulation and also indicate their willingness to do so. The whole point of this feature originally from Broadband Forum is that there is no BFD control protocol running between the two systems, and simple packet loopback is permitted. What this means is that you have an unprotected system. So you are correct in the sense that there's not much going on, but it's still dangerous.
Yeah, I think Mark give some comments that if that is in normal forwarding way, the packet will be looped back, because if the remote side just router the packet based on the IP address, but there are some risk that if the remote side treat that packet as a BFD echo packet, it will do some other action. That may be the risk. Yeah.
Yeah, in security terminology, this would be considered a reflection attack. So that is the thing that the security considerations will need to discuss.
Yeah, understand.
Greg, I have a further point, but Greg, did you want to finish one?
No, thank you, Jeff. It was very. One small note I wanted to mention in regard to the reference to BDF document. I discussed it with their BDF, and they're not really proud of this document and what is written there in regard to the BFD. So they're not going to revisit it, but they're not advertise it and not really supportive of what's in the document in regard to BFD echo function.
Well, that is good to know. It also means that they will be happy if we clean this up for them.
Yes, if we can provide some foundation, I don't think that there will be any effort to revisit their TR 146, but yes, they would appreciate if we provide more strict technical ground for this mode.
So, Greg, just to clarify, they're not proud of their document. You're not referring to this.
No. I'm referring to TR 146 in
Okay.
part that discusses BFD echo function use.
Okay. Thank you.
And make one last point and then return the presentation back. Using your own slide, one of the discussion points that will need to be in the document is that by entering one of the down or init states, that normally implies that the BFD async mechanism is running and will be generating packets. So part of our procedure changes that need to be in here is that we're allowed to be in the down state without transmitting packets. And I'll take that comment also to the mailing list.
Yeah, thank you very much. So could I go ahead for the open issues?
Please.
Yeah. So yeah, there are still two issues open. If possible, we hope to have some discussion here. The first issue is that current version, in order to reuse the both FD state machine and the demultiplexing key, which will simplify the implementation. So in this draft, the BFD ICO packet reuse the BFD control packet format. So we would like to know, is there some other proposal? And the second open issue is that I think at the beginning we talked about the BFD YAM model, and if possible, we hope this the mechanism in this draft can be BFD YAM model also. So if we decide to handle the BFD YAM model draft further, I think we can consider this point in also. Thank you.
Greg, you have the mic.
Dai-Chan, thank you for bringing these open issues. My understanding of the status of BFD echo is that the format of the packet, the payload, is not defined. So, and that's the question to authors of this document and to the group itself. So if in this document is defined that it uses their BFD control message format. Would that be interpreted as in all other applications of BFD Echo, they must use BFD control message format?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Okay.
that's something that we need to consider. The impact of decision made in this document on all other applications of BFD Echo.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So as individual, I would say we need to clarify that if we do use the BFD control packet format for this, it's only for the unaffiliated, and all the other uses of Echo existing ones don't change.
Yeah. And similarly speaking is, Greg, please.
I don't know. I'll wait.
Also, as an individual, my employer is doing something very similar to this. They did choose to use some portion of BFD Echo packet processing because they already had code for doing so. That said, I'm not clear whether or not we have to specify the contents here. One thing maybe for the authors to consider is, do you really need to specify the contents? And if you do, one of your options is that you can make it an option rather than, this is the mandatory implementation. This is, after all, a local feature.
Yeah, I think we can do it. We can provide a proposal to working group after the meeting, and let's see the.
Okay, and we will obviously take these questions to the mailing list as well.
Thank you. So next step, I think we need more reviews and comments, and we've got quite a lot feedback and comments just now. I think we will revise this draft to resolve those comments, as well as some further action will be taken after the meeting. And then we would like to ask for working group last call. Thank you.
Thank you, Wei-Cheng.
Thank you.
So I believe that completes our agenda.
Right on time.
We have a couple of few moments if somebody would like to bring another issue to the microphone. Otherwise, we may adjourn. Give it a few seconds to see if anybody wants to raise something. There being silence, let us adjourn.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. See you soon.